In October 2025, something happened that no company had ever done before. A single American corporation crossed a valuation of $5 trillion. That company was Nvidia, and just 3 years earlier, most investors barely knew its name. $5 trillion. That number is bigger than Germany's entire economy. It's more than the total global cryptocurrency market. And it was built not on social media, not on e-commerce, but on a tiny piece of silicon, a chip. This is the story of how one company went from making graphics cards for video games to becoming the most valuable company in the history of capitalism. And it happened so fast, even Wall Street didn't see it coming. To understand what Nvidia did, you have to go back to where it started. In 1993, a young engineer named Jensen Huang co-founded Nvidia in Santa Clara, California. His vision was simple: build a chip that could handle complex graphics for video games faster than anything else on the market. For nearly 2 decades, Nvidia was a gaming company. Its GPUs, graphics processing units, powered the worlds of Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and thousands of other games. Good business, steady growth. Nothing extraordinary. But Jensen Huang had a secret weapon that almost nobody understood at the time. In 2006, Nvidia released something called CUDA, Compute Unified Device Architecture. It was a software platform that let programmers use Nvidia's GPUs for tasks far beyond graphics. For years, CUDA was a niche tool used by a handful of researchers. Scientists used it to simulate weather patterns, financial models, and physics experiments. It was impressive, but nobody thought it would change the world. Then, in 2012, something shifted. A group of researchers at the University of Toronto used Nvidia GPUs to train a neural network that outperformed every other computer vision system in the world. It was the first signal that AI and Nvidia's chips were destined for each other. Jensen Huang saw this and went all in. While his competitors were focused on mobile chips and consumer electronics, Nvidia quietly pivoted toward artificial intelligence. They hired AI researchers. They built data center products. They upgraded CUDA year after year. For most of the 2010s, the stock markets didn't care. Nvidia's stock price was decent, but it wasn't exciting. The company hit a market cap of around $12 billion in 2016. Still just a chip company for gamers. Or so everyone thought. Then came November 30th, 2022, one of the most consequential days in tech history. OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public. Within 5 days, it had 1 million users. Within 2 months, 100 million. The AI revolution had arrived, and it needed chips to run. And not just any chips. Training a large language model like GPT requires thousands of GPUs running in parallel, crunching matrix math at speeds no CPU can match. The chip the entire industry had already built its AI software on, Nvidia's GPU, running on Nvidia's CUDA platform. Overnight, demand for Nvidia's H100 chip exploded. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, every major tech company in the world was placing orders. But the supply chain couldn't keep up. H100s were being resold on secondary markets for $40,000 each. Wait times stretched to 6 months. In fiscal year 2023, Nvidia's data center revenue was around $15 billion. 1 year later, $47 billion. And by fiscal 2025, data center revenue alone hit $102 billion, representing 80% of the company's total income. Total revenue for fiscal 2025 came in at $130.5 billion, a 114% increase year over year. Let that sink in. A company already making $60 billion doubled in 1 year. On Wall Street, the stock price reflected every bit of that growth. Nvidia's shares went from around $14 in early 2023 to over $200 by late 2025. That's a 12-fold increase in less than 3 years. If you had invested $10,000, you'd be sitting on over $120,000. By July 2025, Nvidia crossed $4 trillion in market cap. Then just 3 months later, in October 2025, it crossed $5 trillion, the first company in history to do so. It had lapped Apple, Microsoft, and every other giant on Earth. To put that in perspective, Apple took 47 years to reach $1 trillion. Nvidia went from 1 trillion to 5 trillion in just 2 years. So how does a company hold onto a lead this big? The answer is a word most people outside Silicon Valley have never heard: CUDA. Nvidia's CUDA ecosystem is one of the most powerful competitive moats in the history of business. For nearly 2 decades, AI researchers have been writing their code in CUDA. It runs CNN, TensorRT, and the other core libraries that every major AI model depends on. Switching to a different chip platform means rewriting years of custom software. Most companies simply won't do it. Nvidia controls over 90% of the AI training hardware market. Not because of luck, because they spent 20 years building a software layer that the entire industry built its future on top of. And then there's the order backlog. In early 2026, Jensen Huang stood before an audience in Washington, D.C. and dropped a number that stunned the room: $500 billion in confirmed orders for Nvidia's next-generation Blackwell and Vera Rubin chips through 2026 alone. Those aren't forecasts or projections. Those are signed purchase orders, money already committed by some of the richest companies in the world. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, Oracle, and OpenAI collectively plan to spend around $400 billion on AI in 2025 alone. OpenAI, the company that started the AI gold rush, signed a deal with Nvidia worth $100 billion. The U.S. government commissioned Nvidia to build 7 supercomputers. Even old-school telecom giant Nokia received a $1 billion investment from Nvidia to build AI-powered 6G networks. And who was the man behind all of this? Jensen Huang was born in Taiwan and came to the United States as a teenager. He washed dishes and bus tables in a Denny's restaurant. Today, he is worth over $100 billion, and he still shows up to every public appearance in his signature black leather jacket. Mark Zuckerberg once called Jensen Huang the Taylor Swift of tech. That's only half a joke. When Huang walks into a conference, engineers hold up signs and ask for autographs. In a world of faceless executives, Jensen Huang has become a genuine celebrity. But Nvidia is not resting on its GPU dominance. The company is pushing deep into what Jensen Huang calls physical AI, artificial intelligence that interacts with the real world. Think self-driving cars, robotic factories, and smart warehouses. Nvidia calls this market worth $50 trillion. Nvidia's automotive division alone earned $1.7 billion in 2025. The company is also building Omniverse, a simulation platform where companies can build digital twins of their entire factory or supply chain before spending a single dollar on physical construction. In 2019, Nvidia bought networking company Mellanox for nearly $7 billion. At the time, Wall Street thought it was a strange move. Now it looks like genius. Mellanox gave Nvidia control of the entire networking layer inside AI data centers, the roads that connect thousands of GPUs together. 73 out of 80 analysts who track Nvidia currently rate the stock a buy. That level of consensus on a $5 trillion company is almost unheard of. Most Wall Street analysts expect AI infrastructure spending to grow 40% per year through 2030. But there are real risks too. Nearly all of Nvidia's data center revenue comes from just 6 customers: Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, Oracle, and OpenAI. If any one of these companies decides to build its own chip, which Google and Amazon are already trying, Nvidia's business could take a serious hit. China is another vulnerability. U.S. government export restrictions have blocked Nvidia from selling its most advanced chips to Chinese buyers. China represents a massive market that Nvidia is essentially locked out of, a deliberate sacrifice for national security. There's also the question of what happens when the AI spending boom cools. Companies like Microsoft and Meta are spending hundreds of billions on data centers. If AI doesn't generate the returns they're expecting, those orders slow down, and Nvidia's growth story changes overnight. Even so, the numbers Nvidia is putting up today are not speculative. They are real revenue from real customers running real AI. $130 billion in annual sales doesn't lie. The $500 billion in confirmed orders doesn't lie. Here is the simple truth of what happened. While the world was playing video games, Jensen Huang was quietly building the infrastructure of the future. When the AI revolution finally arrived, Nvidia was the only company ready for it. That is how you go from 12 billion to 5 trillion. The first $5 trillion company in history. Not a social network, not a search engine, not a phone manufacturer. A chip company run by a man who used to wash dishes at Denny's, wearing a leather jacket in Silicon Valley. If you found this story incredible, you'll love what else this channel has in store. We cover the biggest money stories in the world, the deals, the collapses, the empires, and the people behind them. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single one.